every coach, even the best coaches, I think they all have something where you go, ugh, boy, he's great, but. And I said, there's going to be a game where Cristobal is going to outthink himself, and they're going to lose a game they shouldn't. And there's no reason at home against Virginia Tech with the weapons that Miami has. Virginia Tech should not have been in that game. Virginia Tech's 2-2. Well, now they're 2-3. But Virginia Tech was 2-2, and they had them. Absolutely had them. And then Virginia Tech did what happens when you're leading a top 10 team on the road. They went into freak-out mode, made some ridiculous plays, and Cam Ward went video game. Like actual, literal video game. He was sacked. It was going to be a 3rd and long, and he gives this weird, I'm getting pulled down by 2 people, 2-handed chest pass. Ultimately taking lead, Virginia Tech moves down. They go Hail Mary. Hail Mary. Now, worth noting, Virginia Tech, not my favorite color scheme of all of college football, the dark maroon of Virginia Tech. And you say, "Why, Justin, why are you bringing up their colors?" Because I don't know how much I ever noticed this until there was a Hail Mary on Friday. Virginia Tech, Miami, both coming down. And Brenden, I don't know if you've ever noticed how much the pants that Virginia Tech wears, how closely they resemble the color of a football. Because you're watching the replay, and I'm like, where is the ball? I can't see it. Their pants are camouflaging the football. If they were wearing white pants, you'd be like, oh, there's the football, number 9 hat. And I think it might have cost them. I think it might have cost them a game. And once again, Friday night proving that in college football, while it is tremendous, the atmosphere is unbelievable, there are still warts, and there is no way in the way we've all become accustomed to watching replay reviews of football games. What do we all know? Call on the field has to be overturned, right? They threw up the touchdown. They said, touchdown, Virginia Tech, they've got it. You watch that replay, there's nothing about that replay that shows that wasn't a touchdown. Now, there was nothing on that replay that showed there was. And that is a massively significant replay. And I also wonder if that game is played anywhere else other than Miami, Florida, and at Hard Rock Stadium. Is that replay a little bit different? I also wonder, and Pac-12 fans, I know the conference is rebuilding, but old school Pac-12 fans, we shall never forget, Brenden, and I know you shall never forget, the one time the Pac-12 director of officiating on his own, on a cell phone, called into a replay to make sure a call was upheld. Was Commissioner of the ACC on that call Friday night? Because it makes the ACC much more valuable if Miami wins that game than if Virginia Tech wins that game. Now, I'm not saying the fix was in, but I do know the ACC would much more prefer Miami be still sitting in the top 10. 2024, we still can't figure out replay. Now, I watched the replay about 57 times and objectively did not look like he caught the ball, held on to the ball. But when you call the touchdown and you think about all of the, like, we're going to look back in December. Now, maybe this will have no outcome on it whatsoever. And maybe Miami continues to roll and they end up winning the ACC and getting that automatic qualifier and winning the ACC championship. If they do, it might not matter. I wonder if we're going to be looking back in December going like, oh, boy. You remember that call on that weird Friday night in September where they kind of took the game away from Virginia Tech? So that was Friday. College football started off with a bang. Oh, also the Huskies lost to Rutgers. Rutgers might be a problem. Also, Huskies might have a long season.
Woof.
Long season for the Huskies. But moving forward, Oregon gets a win very late into the night down at the Rose Bowl. There was an all-time classic in Tuscaloosa, Alabama. Mississippi was the big top 10 team that did go down at home to Kentucky, and a whole bunch of other stuff as we recap a wild Week 5 of college football next, 620 Rip City Radio. right, so Oregon had their first game in Big Ten country. That's right. And Oregon marched on the road into Big Ten country. Rose Bowl in L.A.? Got it. Okay.
UCLA is in L.A.
It is in L.A.
Did we determine that this weekend?
Did you hear, Deshaun Foster is I don't know if it's him or the athletic department or whatever, but, they're telling, their radio partners and their media partners, you can't bring that up. Don't bring it. It's off limits now. And it's dude, you threw a joke out there. It was a mistake.
I'm not sure who's in over their heads more, Deshaun Foster at UCLA or Antonio Pierce at Las Vegas. But that's a conversation for a different time.
That's a conversation for a different time and a different day.
But it was bad on Saturday night, Justin. It didn't look very good. UCLA's not a good team.
I'm going to start chronicling your giggles because there are categories.
Nice.
You went evil. That was Evil Henchman, I think. You went the Evil Henchman. That one might. That's different. See, that was different. That's a different one than. I love it.
Good.
You've got different categories.
I'd like to see how many we have.
We might have to chronicle them. But anyways.
Justin Ryan with his little notepad on. Brenden last one.
That's
Brenden
Evil
last two,
Henchman,
three.
number 1, 6:21 a.m. All right, so Oregon goes down to UCLA, and they take on the Bruins. Bruins are terrible. They're bad. We mentioned it last week. Chip Kelly left that program hanging out to dry, and, Deshaun Foster seems a bit in over his head. And it's not really his fault.
No, they were stuck.
It's not anywhere close to his fault because they had no other options. Chip Kelly left the program back in February. They had only the spring transfer window, which is nowhere close to the same as the December transfer window. And so UCLA, it's going to be a long road, by the way. It doesn't get any easier because you have to go to Penn State this week. So good luck, Bruins. Now, let's get back to the Oregon Ducks. Here's the good stuff. And there's a lot of good stuff, and there's a little nitpicky stuff, and then I think a big picture stuff with regard to Oregon football this weekend. Good thing is 4-0, right? That's in 2024. Good, ugly, sloppy, doesn't matter. It is survive and advance in college football. The style points don't matter at this particular point. Now, there may be sometime down the road, if you fall down around that 9, 10, 11, 12, 13 ranking and that muck that is going to create some conversations where maybe some style points matter. But wins are wins. It does not matter. Style points don't matter. And also, and I don't know, Dan Lanning, I'm sure, did not do this on purpose, but I've seen this a dozen times enough to know, even when you are playing the late game on the West Coast, even the most die-hard East Coast college foot, and I know this because I follow a lot of them on Twitter, they're done by halftime. So other than the Dylan Gabriel pick six, which was not ideal, most people went to bed like Oregon is dominating UCLA, and they woke up going, yep, they dominated UCLA. UCLA scored 3 points in the second half. Oregon's defense kept the UCLA Bruins out of the end zone other than a pick six, which is not the defense's fault, as they were not on the field. UCLA couldn't move the ball. What were the when you look at the numbers, UCLA total yards 172. Total yards 172. Rushing yards, 47. 47 rushing yards for UCLA. They didn't get 200 yards of total offense. They were 1 and 10. 1 for 10 on third down. Oregon defense went down to LA, smacked UCLA right in the mouth. And again, UCLA's bad. That's what you do to bad teams. Because UCLA also scored 17 points against LSU. They scored 13 points against Indiana. Their only game so far where they got a win was against Hawaii, who kind of stinks. They scored 16 points in the win. So UCLA offense is brutally bad. And Oregon's defense did what you're supposed to do on the road to a brutally bad team. That is tighten it up, clamp it down. They could not move the ball. Oregon, on the other hand, especially early on in the game, was moving the ball fairly well. They start rolling downhill. Tez has a monster game. Gabriel goes for 278, 31 of 41, 3 touchdowns, and you got the 1 pick six in there. And that's the only reason that this was not a complete and utter blowout was one play. I don't know if that was a massively bad pass by Gabriel. I know that Tez Johnson, his intended target, did fall down on the route. Still looked like he was thrown into triple coverage. Who knows? Luckily, doesn't matter. But that flipped the game, made me stay up an extra hour and a half on Saturday as opposed to being able to maybe shut it down and go to bed. But neither here nor there. The defense for Oregon was lights out, and UCLA couldn't move the ball. And this is where I think maybe some Oregon, I don't know if Oregon fans got frustrated, but while Oregon scored 28 points in the first half, they scored 6. They scored 6 points in the second half, in the fourth quarter. Maybe I'm giving Dan Lanning too much credit. I don't think I am, though, because I think Dan Lanning is an incredibly smart coach. We are in a playoff era. And as I just mentioned, style points don't matter. If this was the 4-team playoff era, you might want to think about putting up a number that when people wake up on Sunday and they start scrolling through the top 25 scores and going like, whoo, boy. But those don't matter anymore. Again, we have got decades and decades and decades of a mindset of style points and impressing pollsters and where you're ranked mattering as opposed to, nope, this is chess, not checkers. And for Oregon football, and no offense to anyone at Michigan State, I know no love lost on the other side of the glass on this particular program, but the Michigan State game, you're favored by 24 at home. When Oregon put up the big second half against Oregon State and seemed to fix what ailed them against Boise State, more on the Broncos in a moment, I think Dan Lanning and his staff, and they will never say it and they won't say it to their team, but you have to then look at the schedule as a big old chessboard or Risk. Did you ever play Risk? I never.
Yeah, Risk was fun.
I never played
very
it.
much like Monopoly. It just took a lot of time.
Took a long time. Well, Oregon's playing Risk, and their Waterloo is October 12th against Ohio State. That's it. You got to get, when you snuck by Boise State, and by the second half against Oregon State, you finally got things rolling. You go into your bye week, and you go like, all right, up 3 scores against UCLA, run the ball. Chew the clock. It is nearly midnight. Not really, but it was very late at night. It is very late at night. We are on the road. It is a short week. This game is not going to be in question at all. The only thing we can do is throw them a couple more pick sixes. It's the only way they're going to score. And Oregon put it right down into overdrive, and they were like, let's chew this clock. Let's get this win. Get on these buses and fly back home. You get Michigan State at home. That's a Friday. It's a short week. Then everything comes right down to what we thought about, which was Ohio State at Autzen on October 12th. You want to play in the postseason. You want to make the playoff. These are the business decisions that you have to make. I firmly believe that Lanning and the coaching staff, probably at halftime after seeing that pick six, I don't know if they said it. I don't know if they gave themselves a look. But Oregon clearly went into the second half going like, all right, we are going to ugly this game up. We are going to hold on to the football. And we're going to give them maybe 3 extra possessions. They can't move the ball. And I don't care that Justin is sitting on his couch, losing his buzz, kind of tired, ready for the blowout to happen, ready for the dam to break again in the second half. Yeah, that's not going to happen. We are going to chew clock, get a dub, get out of town. Because there are bigger fish to fry than trying to blow out UCLA. 2 things you eliminate when you do that, usually. 1, turnovers, and 2, I think, very much, especially with your quarterback, lower risk of injury. And I think that's what Oregon was doing there in that second half. I think they were trying to lower risk of injury. I think they were trying to chew clock. And I think they were trying to get out of L.A. with a significant win. They proved it. They proved it in the first half. We can move this ball whenever we want to. Pick up a couple extra first downs. And you look at the play calling from the first half to the second half. You look at the amount of times they ran the ball. Oregon ran the ball 36 times. They passed 42 times. And this is a team that I want to say on the first two drives, they were throwing the ball all over the place. Jordan James gets a 100-yard game. He's at 5 yards a carry. This was all about, again, I believe playing chess, not checkers. And Lanning's smart enough to understand that you don't need to put up 50 on UCLA. You used to have to. In games like that, especially when nobody was watching, you wanted that. Again, I'm making a reference to my age, but when you popped open the sports page on Sunday morning, again, yeah, I know. Now we just get on Twitter and scroll through our phones. But it used to be when the BCS, Brenden, was going on, and you're like, Sunday morning, you pop up, it's like, woo, so-and-so put up 55 points last night after we went to bed. Like,
I laugh at one of my most valuable possessions is not the sports section, the front page of the Oregonian. Wow, Moivau after beating USC in 08. So there's even I have memories of, like in a box somewhere, Justin, probably starting to turn yellow. I got newspaper. I got some quality newspapers from my youth because kids these days have no idea what it's like to be like, let's check out, everything, scores, stats. I mean, it was standings, right? It was all there.
Even living on the West Coast, we've all seen that where games starting and we go to bed and you wake up and you go like, whoo, boy, they put it on them. You didn't watch any of it. There's too many college football games to watch. You don't have to do that anymore. Don't want to win by 3 at home to Boise, but you're easily up in this game. You are in complete command, especially on the defensive side of the ball. They can't move the ball in general, but more in particular, they can't run the ball. And if a team can't run the ball, they're going to be in trouble. Get your win, chew the clock, get out of town. It's a short week. Everything still is focused on Ohio State coming up on October 12th. And I'll bet you, and I hope, knock on wood, I hope that Friday night, while I'm down in Eugene, I hope I'm having a boring second half. The only thing that was really in doubt was the point spread because Oregon was up 21 with the ball, and there were a lot of people very curious to see how aggressive they were. And then they put in their third-string quarterback, which I thought was interesting. Novosad got in there. I don't want to get all conspiracy theory-ish, Brenden, but Oregon went to Jay Novosad, who's their third-string quarterback, as opposed to Dante Moore. Was that a precaution in, hey, you probably have a lot of friends on this team, but we're not going to put in Dante Moore in the fourth quarter and let some angry defensive lineman take a cheap shot at him? I thought that was interesting that Dante Moore didn't get a snap at the Rose Bowl against his former team. Had to be planned out, right? So maybe there's somebody that's still a little bit bitter. They want to prove a point. We need a backup quarterback for the whole rest of the season. Hey, Jay, go in there, hand the ball off a couple of times. Let's get out of here with the W. So Oregon did that. They get out with a W. Tez Johnson, again, mentioned it, monster game for Tez, 121. A couple of touchdowns. Trayshawn Holden also with a touchdown. Two things of note. Terrence Ferguson goes down with what looked like a concussion. That's significant. You need to be all hands on deck in 2 weeks when you face Ohio State. Terrence Ferguson is a huge part of that offense. Now, Kenyon Sadiq came in, had a nice game in replacing Terrence Ferguson, but Terrence Ferguson takes a shot across the middle. I watched the hit about 4 or 5 times. Didn't look like a cheap shot. Looked like a hard hit. I was surprised there wasn't a flag. I did like Dylan Gabriel going and getting up in UCLA's grill, protecting his guy. But Terrence Ferguson goes out. That's significant. The other thing, while we have some time here, it's time to nitpick. And again, I've joked that Brenden, along with a lot of other Beaver believers, are like Ryan from The Office with the notepad, keeping track of all the transfers. And I'm sure it really hurt that Florida State really stinks right now. Really stinks. I'm sure it also hurt that that Aiden Childs had 2 significant turnovers in that game.
Machine. I think he's got like 8 on the year. It's a lot.
Atticus Sappington has now missed a second PAT. He's missed his second PAT of the season.
He missed 2 last year, so
I know
he's on that mark. So,
and I think more than the PATs. That's something. The other thing is, and I know they do that whole bit on game day where McAfee brings the kid out and they're like, "Hey, you want to kick a field goal? Don't say mean things to kickers." And I get it. I don't want to say I can't kick a football. Never could. Can't kick a football. I, though, to my dying day, will not understand unless you come out and be like, it's like when you swing a golf ball every once in a while. How do you kick a ball out of bounds? Not out of the back of the end zone on a kickoff. I'm talking about how do you kick a ball out of bounds? I've been on a football field. It's big. It is big. Wide. I believe 60 yards wide. How do you kick a football out of bounds? And he's done it twice now this year.
But to that point, I mean, yeah.
Those are things when you against UCLA, not a big deal. You kick a ball out of bounds in a game where you're going to need every possession, and they get the ball at the 35, and it just boom. There are 2 possessions to midfield. That changes everything.
Yeah, so. I just think it's mind-boggling that it's maybe it gets better as the season goes along, but obviously tongue-in-cheek, yeah, you said Ryan Howard on the list, but at the same token, Justin, a part of me also just, I know this is going to sound bad, but part of me genuinely feels bad that every single one of these guys has gone to what have turned out to be worse situations. So I can be frustrated they left and also kind of feel some empathy for them because it's like, yeah, DJU, you would have stayed. Maybe you would have been probably at worst 6th or 7th round draft pick. You're probably not going to get drafted now, actually.
Florida State is so bad.
Yeah.
They are how did they get so bad?
Apparently Keon Coleman was just everything for them.
Or was it Jordan Travis?
Yeah.
Was that just fool's gold last year? They are so bad.
Again, maybe DJ's leadership isn't quite what Jordan. It's hard to say, right? It's hard to put it on.
Well,
but the only guy that's hitting on a success rate, Justin, is Damian Martinez.
Yeah, he's pretty good.
Atticus Sappington's in a better place, making a lot more money, so I'm not going to hate on him either too much. He got his booze at Reeser, but that's about it.
Yeah, but he keeps missing extra points.
Yeah, that's not going to make Justin very happy.
And he keeps kicking the ball out of bounds. Kick it out of the back of the end zone, dude. Now, again, like I said, I can't kick a ball. But, I don't. And, okay, once in a while you go and you go to swing and it's not there. We've all done that. Not where we're kicking, but, where you throw a ball and just boy, that didn't go where I thought. I don't know how you kick a ball out of bounds. Especially when you have the leg to kick it out of the back of the end zone. Just kick it out of the back of the end zone. Anyways, that's nitpicky stuff. Oregon with the win. I like the boring second half. I know some Oregon fans on Twitter were a little bit frustrated with the boring second half. I was not. You're in a short week. You're on the road. Get your win. Get out. Hand the ball off a handful of times. On the buses. Let's get out of here. Let's get out of here. Fairly clean. Let's get out of here. Fairly low on injuries. Terrence Ferguson's going to be a thing. But on to next week. Survive and advance in college football because there is a playoff. Speaking of said playoff, Boise State, they made a statement on Saturday night as well. Ashton Genty, if you didn't already know, you better call somebody, as the New Age Outlaws used to say, because he just put his foot in the ground along with Jalen Milroe in terms of the Heisman race. My Heisman bet might be gone. We'll be all right though. We'll be all right. But we've got On Campus next, 620 Rip City Radio. All right, obviously it wasn't just Oregon at UCLA on Saturday. We saw one of the greatest college football games I've ever seen. Let's just start there. Actually, let's just start here. This is the part of the show where we go on campus. We got a fun music thing. I like playing it, and I like hearing it. Let's go on campus. Alabama, Georgia was unbelievable. It was unbelievable, and it once again proves why I love this sport. Because I'm sorry, NFL, you don't get that in the regular season. You don't. You don't get that in the regular season. Now, you do get that in the AFC and NFC championship game, and you do get that in playoff matchups, and Super Bowl is what it is. But you can take the most heated rivalry in all of the NFL, play it during a regular season game. You're not going to get what we saw in Tuscaloosa, Alabama. So let's just start there. Woo-hoo! What a ball game. Winners get sprinkles. Kalen DeBoer, it took him a month. He got his first signature win as the head coach at Alabama. Now, it got dicey at the end. And if he didn't get bailed out by a 17-year-old wide receiver, which slapped my forehead.
Feel old yet?
He was born in 2007. He was born in 2007.
It's not. This is
crazy.
This is
He was
complete.
born in 2007.
This is completely unrelated. But I'm telling you're welcome to Wrexham moment in that regard is going to be, and who knows if he even will, the day that Achilles Smith Jr. takes his first snap for Oregon. You're going to sit there and go, where is the last 25 years? You know what I mean? Like,
luckily, my last 25 years have been incredibly fulfilled.
Of course. But you know what I mean.
Doing a lot of things, but yeah.
That's nuts.
What's nuts is that the guy that made the biggest play in the game in Alabama, Georgia, can't vote.
Yeah, that's crazy. Or buy alcohol. How about that?
Well, for 4 years.
Yeah, I know.
Can't buy a beer for 4 years.
Can't even buy a pack of smokes if you wanted to, Justin.
No, you can't pop a
Can't
Zin.
do nothing.
Can't pop a Zin. So that game was unbelievable. Also, look, tip of the cap to Georgia. They were dead dog done. It was over. They couldn't move the ball. It seemed like Alabama was in their huddle, and something happened. Again, I talk about every coach has got a fatal flaw. Time will tell. But, Brenden, active coaches right now, Kalen DeBoer might be the best in college football. Now, I might be coming from a place of he kicked my team's tail 3 games in a row last year, but look at Kalen DeBoer's coaching record. DJ Khaled, all he does is win. Is that DJ Khaled's song?
Darn right it is.
All he does is win. It's unbelievable.
The pride of Millbank, South Dakota. It continues to amaze me.
They looked like they were in Georgia's huddle.
The fact that
Jalen Milroe had the game they were so prepared. They were so ready to play.
Here's the thing.
All of the worries that Alabama fans may have had about, replacing Nick Saban.
Here's the thing.
Not on Saturday.
Here's the thing that I think is absolutely fascinating with Kalen, and I'm going to start calling him Kalen DeGoat until things, he needs a title. He needs some titles. I get it.
DeGoat was sitting up in a nice box
true.
During that game, and you got a long ways to go before you're there, and that's fine.
I know what you mean. But hey, it rolls off the tongue, though,
he's maddening. The SEC better get used to it. Because at Oregon, when he was at Washington, it was only 2 seasons. He was maddening.
So here's the fascinating
how well
thing.
His teams are prepared.
He's a pretty young spring chicken at the ripe age of 49, so he's not going anywhere anytime soon. And here's the other thing. It is 2 things that continue to impress me every day with Kalen DeBoer. And here's one that no one's talking about. This is the first time going back since his time at Sioux Falls where he did not have Ryan Grubb as his offensive coordinator. Ryan Grubb, who is killing it with the Seahawks, by the way. Might even have to ask Brady Henderson.
Coaching Monday Night Football tonight.
Yeah, might even have to ask Brady.
Making Geno Smith look like a Pro Bowler.
DK Metcalf finding it. Anyway, so that, and then again, the fact that this guy was left alone to win 3 national championships at Sioux Falls, and they're still like, the best we can do is then make him a wide receivers coach. Then, Southern Illinois, Eastern Michigan, Fresno State,
Mhm.
Indiana, Fresno State as a head coach. I mean,
And
this
just
guy.
win and win after win after win.
And you compare his journey as a head coach, Justin, to someone like Dion, who just had it handed to him.
Yeah, but they look good this week. I'm not going to the pumping the brakes on Coach Prime. They showed up ready to play, and they kicked the dog out of Gus Malzahn's team in Orlando.
Do you know off the top of your head what Kalen DeBoer's worst season as a head coach is, Justin?
I want to say it's 8-4.
Well, it's a trick question. But the COVID year. He went 500 in the COVID year. Other than that, it was 9-3.
9-3.
Yep.
It's so insane.
Yep.
He's so good. And I'm so glad he is not the coach at Washington anymore. So glad.
But your
But think about
significant
this.
other and some others certainly miss him up in Seattle.
Michael Penix was left for scraps at Indiana. And
was.
Kalen DeBoer turned him into a top 10 pick and probably should have won the Heisman. I mean, Jane Daniels, what he's doing right now, is making a case for like, no, that's my trophy, and there's a reason why I have it. But he turned him into a Heisman contender. And what was the big concern going into this year at Alabama? Oh, what are you going to do with Jalen Milroe? You can't run that offense that you ran with Michael Penix with Jalen Milroe. You can do that because Jalen Milroe just said, hey, college football world, Cam Ward, Ashton Genty, you guys all take a back seat because I'm number one right now on this Heisman list. God, Alabama looked good. Man, they looked so good. Also, speaking of the playoff, Boise now currently sits at 21 in the country. Genty looks like a bona fide Heisman Trophy contender. And Boise, with a blowout win against Washington State, puts themselves in the absolute catbird seat, as the old-timers used to say, for a chance to get to the college football playoff because the only teams behind them are UNLV, who is a group of 5 team, and they play them. After that, the closest receiving votes is James Madison. Watch out for James Madison, though. They might spoil the party as well. There we go. There's your on campus. We have got hour number 2. Brady Henderson joins us in hour number 2. Crazy story from what happened to me yesterday with a funny twist on what could have been a very serious thing. But all's well, it ends well. We'll talk about that next. 620 Rip City Radio.
7 a.m. on a Monday. Brenden Slaughter with you for Rip City Mornings. The Oregon Ducks improved to 4-0 on the year with a 34-13 win over the UCLA Bruins at the Rose Bowl. That's in LA. That's where UCLA is. Didn't know if y'all knew that. The Ducks climbed to number 6 in the latest AP poll after sitting at number 8 last week, up 2 spots. And the Seattle Seahawks were idle over the weekend because they play tonight. Monday Night Football, one of 2 games. They take on Detroit at Ford Field. You want to know more about that game? Well, stick right here. We're going to be talking to Brady Henderson, Seahawks reporter, live from Detroit in about 20 minutes. You got Rip City Mornings, Hour 2.
Hey, welcome back to Rip City Mornings, everybody. Hopefully you are all having a fantastic Monday. Hopefully you had a fantastic weekend. I had a great weekend up until it wasn't great. More on that in a moment. We are going to be talking to Brady Henderson, though, from ESPN.com as the Seattle Seahawks head to Detroit Rock City, the Motor City, to take on the Lions at Ford Field in what is part of a Monday night doubleheader. Do you like the 2 games on Monday night? I guess I kind of like it if one turns out to be, like last week, the Bills just... who'd they beat the dog out of last week?
Already forget because I got the dog beat out of them last night so bad. We'll talk about that tomorrow. But yeah,
Are the Ravens going to be a problem?
I tried to tell you this with Derrick Henry, and you sat there and looked at me and said, he's old.
He's
Running backs are
still
old. And I said, Justin, that's King Henry right there.
It's like Toby Keith. He ain't as good as he once was, but he was as good yesterday as he ever was. That's a little spin on a Toby Keith song, R.I.P. To Toby Keith.
But how do you get one? Like, I'm sorry, this can't wait till tomorrow. How do you get 199? That would draw. I would literally be going into John.
He's got enough. He's got enough day. Like, he's fine. He's got enough. But yeah, we'll talk some NFL in 20 minutes. In particular, Seahawks Lions, part of the Monday night doubleheader. I guess in terms of a backup plan, right? Because one game might be just a big dull dud. It's like, oh, sweet. Well, then let's go to the other one. Because usually you put 2 NFL games on the fact if they're both duds, that's just statistically not that probable. Watch tonight, it'll be both duds, and I'll look like a big dumb doofus tomorrow. So that's coming up in 20 minutes. We got some stuff we saw on the internet, and in the third hour, a whole lot more college football as we are now going from September to October. October means it is time to start prognosticating. We're going to take a look at who's in college football playoff right now, who is bubble on the college football playoff bubble, and who is in a bit of trouble with regard to the college football playoff. That's going to be coming up in the third hour. But as I mentioned, my Sunday yesterday was a roller coaster ride of emotion for your boy Justin. I just went third person, don't like doing it, but felt I needed it. So let me tell you about my day yesterday, and it ends well. There's some scary parts in the middle, but it ends well, and I feel a funny twist at the end. So my day started as probably most of yours was. I got up, I watched some college football highlights, and I hunkered in to watch my beloved Steelers to take on the Indianapolis Colts. And the way the Steelers are playing, I know they're on the road, but it's the Colts. The Steelers got the best defense. What? Joe Flacco's carving us up again. Questionable calls, some worry about Justin Fields, and then just when I'm ready to bench Justin Fields, he then starts playing well. Ultimately, the Steelers would go down and lose their perfect record, but that's fine. It happens. It doesn't ruin my Sunday the way that maybe a bad Oregon loss might kind of ruin my Saturday, because the NFL, it is a volume game. So Steelers lose, and my lovely wife, who likes football but doesn't love it the way I do, is so incredibly supportive to me at this time. She goes to football games in Eugene, even though she is a Husky alum. We will be going on Friday down to Oregon and Michigan State, fighting through all that traffic. And so on Sunday, after the Steeler game, I'm like, she wanted to go to do what most elder millennials do this time of year. Brenden Kill wants to go to the pumpkin patch. And I'm like, you know what? The Steelers lost. Kind of sick of football right now. Sure. We got some errands to run. Let's go on a fun trip out into the country and let's go pick up some pumpkins at the pumpkin patch. So we went to where a place I'm sure you are very familiar with because we went towards your neck of the woods. Is it the Red Berry Barn? Is that what it's called? Or you know what I'm talking about.
It's sleigh bells?
But I think it's a different name during the not Christmas time.
That would make sense, yes.
So if you're driving on 99 heading from Sherwood towards Newburgh,
Yes.
there is this country fair jamboree of a place, and they got pumpkins, and they got corn, and they got a corn maze, and it is a fall harvest festival delight. Shout out Parks and Rec Harvest Festival. Let's take a fun trip. It's a beautiful day. Let's take a fun trip out into the country because I don't know why. And again, if you want to go buy your pumpkins at Safeway, you do you. We went a little bit festive on our house. Just like I like going out into the woods. By that woods, I mean a Christmas tree farm. But I like cutting down my own Christmas tree. You know what I mean?
I don't know what you mean.
Well, you have a fake one. Either way, you do you, and I'm going to do me.
This has been a fun debate with us for a couple years
now.
For
a while now.
So it's nothing new, but yeah, like Justin goes, you know what I mean? I'm like, I did as a kid, and that was an all-day adventure, and I'm like, why would I take all day to cut down a tree?
I would imagine, I don't even know if you decorate your house with pumpkins, but I would imagine when you go to the pumpkin, do you go get them at Safeway?
Like, we have Halloween, like, stuff around the house, but no, we don't have any pumpkins.
Okay. Well, we went out into the country to go get the pumpkins, to get the full aesthetic. Do that, run a couple errands, and we're driving back. And we get to, for anybody that is familiar with the Tualatin, Newburgh, Sherwood area, we get up into what is a very busy intersection, and it is right there at 99 and Roy Rogers. Is that the right? It's Roy Rogers. It's Roy Rogers on one side, and it's another
Tualatin Sherwood on the other.
Tualatin Sherwood on the other.
Goes the freeway. Roy Rogers goes to Shoals and Beaverton that way.
I'm so close to the light. I'm so close to the light to taking a right and hitting freeway and going home and sitting down and watching Sunday Night Football because Josh Allen's going to beat the dog out of the Ravens. Let's just say plans changed on multiple fronts. As I said, everything ends well. Driving, see a red light, because I am a cautious driver. I see the red light. I slow down. Car in front of me does not see the red light and goes full speed and rear ends the car in front of them. I give a holy S, didn't say S, at which time car in front of me, who just rear-ended car in front of them, throws it in reverse and backs up very fast into my stopped car with me and my wife. Kelly was looking at her phone and looks up to see a car coming backwards at us at an intersection. Yeah. Front end of the car, jacked. Then this car, I don't know what they were doing at this point, and again, I'm not an investigator. I just know what I saw. Heads forward. Hits the car again in front of them. So now we have a 1, 2, 3. Not a 6-4-3 double play, but the car version of it. Like I said, everybody walked away. But now we're sitting there. My car kind of drives. I also don't know what's going on with this other car. They hit two. One of them being us. My car is not drivable on the road, but it is movable. I pull it off to where I feel is the safest place. The radiator's steaming, coming through. Shut off the car. Wife's on the phone with 911 because we don't know what's going on there. And let's just say, Brenden, I met a lot of very nice, helpful people from the Sherwood Police Department and the Tualatin Valley Fire Department. Thankfully, they weren't there to see me. They were there to have some questions for somebody else. So there we were. Bing, bing, bing. That's car little ping pong happens. And After we shut down the car, well, car's not going to start again. So now I'm waiting for a tow truck. Now, I don't know if you ever had your car towed, Brenden.
Yes, yeah. Broke down once. Starter broke.
But if you
Not this
need
one.
anything in that car, you got to take it out. And luckily, we had a very nice friend, tip of the cap to my buddy Nate, who might be listening at this particular point because I know he's a regular listener to this program. Tip of the cap to my friend Nate, who on a Sunday night was like, yeah, I'll come get you. Can you drive to Sherwood to pick us up? So he drives down to pick us up because our car is getting towed. This is now the funny part. When your car gets towed, you got to take all your stuff out. And in the car, like I said, we ran some errands. There was some dry cleaning. There was my wife rides horses on Thursdays. She's got her cowgirl boots, like actual real boots, not, she's got the ones you order on Amazon too, and they're very nice, very expensive, need them. Boots. And now, Brenden, do you remember what I said our first objective was when we started off our day?
To get wine.
No, it was not. It was to get pumpkins. It was to get pumpkins.
You did tell me. In fairness, you did tell me you were going to pick up a case of wine.
Picked up that, but also
fairness. Did the wine break and the pumpkins break?
But we got 8 pumpkins in the car. We're broken down. So there's, can imagine what the visual is in Sherwood at the intersection. There's Kelly and I hauling pumpkins from the middle of the wreck.
I imagine it's like a fire line where they're passing the pails of water through town.
To be fair, not just to be fair, but just worth noting, the very nice Sherwood PD offered to help. We said, no, thank you, officer. We can handle this on our own. Yeah. So there we are. Kelly and I. Car is, hasn't been designated as totaled, but that car is toast. Thankfully, again, walking out under our own power with like 10 pumpkins as hauling them out of the back and setting them on the side of the road, sitting there waiting for our ride. And then our friend Nate shows up and he's like, oh, wow, that's crazy, your car. And then we're like, hey, do you have room in your trunk for like 10 pumpkins? And at that point, we had to hilariously laugh because it was just completely absurd at that particular point. Because didn't plan on getting run into. Didn't plan on getting into a car wreck. And I call it a car wreck because I didn't make an accident. I sat there and was being a safe driver. Also, didn't expect to have a car run into me going backwards. That was a new one.
That surprised me too.
And then on top of it, didn't expect to, in the middle of one of the busiest intersections, and it's massively busy because now we're down to like 1 lane as opposed to 3 lanes because there's 2 broken down cars in one of the busiest intersections in and around Washington County is me and my wife hauling pumpkins to the side of the road. Should have set up the pail line. You're right, Brenden. Should have got like the 2 cops, maybe a firefighter, and just like, hey, guys, we're all just going to move these pumpkins across 99.
I just wish now, in hindsight, I had just randomly went out to get food as I had done any normal time.
Yeah, you would have seen me if it was somewhere around 5 o'clock yesterday. You would have seen me hauling pumpkins after getting run into.
It would have been insane because I would have been like, I thought I would have been like, that's Justin's doppelganger. I've been like, there's no reason.
That ain't him. What's he doing in Sherwood on a Sunday?
Yeah, like he would not
with a bunch
be
of pumpkins.
Back then again, that
was my day.
It's like you come into my town, Justin, and someone hits you. It's unacceptable. It's absolutely unacceptable. And not once, but twice.
Well,
not once, but twice.
I know.
It's rough. I've seen now a couple accidents. So between your accident and one that I saw like a month ago, that's now 2 accidents where I've seen cars totaled and towed away at that light. So word of the wise, be careful at that intersection, folks.
I was being extraordinarily careful. then I shall not speak anymore because I don't know what I'm supposed to say. But I'll just say I was being very careful. The other people, other person, that's going to be up for somebody else to decide. We have got Brady Henderson. He joins the show next, 620 Rip City Radio. All right, we have got a Monday Night Football doubleheader tonight, but the game on most people around here's mind is the Seattle Seahawks and their 3-0 record heading on the road to take on the Detroit Lions. Kickoff going to be at 5:15 here on the West Coast, ABC. That's 8:15 in Detroit, which is where our next guest is joining us from the Motor City, friend of the program from ESPN.com. Brady Henderson back on the big show. Brady, how we doing, bud?
Well, thanks for having me. I'm good. I'm just trying to figure out what I'm going to do for the next 10 hours before this game starts. Not only is there a long time, but I'm staying at a hotel in the suburbs. So I don't know. I just stare at the wall for the next 5-6 hours before I start to head into the downtown and head to the stadium.
Now,
I don't know.
I've never been to the beautiful suburbs of Detroit, Michigan. To be perfectly honest with you, Brady, I've only been through the airport at Detroit, so can't say I've spent a lot of time there. I know that shopping malls aren't quite a thing anymore. There's got to be a mall somewhere. Maybe get you a Wetzel pretzel. I don't know. Is there a movie? Is there a movie out? I don't know. There's probably some new superhero movie to watch. I don't know. That's got to be tough. I bet you there's Starbucks or something.
Yeah. Then I'll go to the mall. I'll get an Orange Julius maybe. I think that's the play.
Orange Julius's were I don't know if the kids today understand the treat that was an Orange Julius. The OG, Orange Julius, something about it. I don't know what magic they put in that thing, but it was delicious.
A crap load of sugar.
Turns out that always works.
Yeah.
All right, Brady, let's dive into this. Let's go. I want to go kind of big picture, and then we'll get into some of the specifics of this particular game. But if you go to ESPN.com right now and you go to the Seattle Seahawks site, you will see an article written by you, which I love the headline. Now, I know that writers don't write the headlines, but I love new sheriff in town. And, boy, it's just a phrase that never gets old. But you wrote about how Mike Macdonald has shaken up the Seahawks. There was a lot of, I think, worry from some Seahawk fans, as there would be when you replace a legend that Pete Carroll was. There was the mural gate. Is he taking down all the pictures? Is he going to lose the locker room? Turns out that might all, but now again, it's early, but that might all been a little bit premature as Mike Macdonald has really hit the ground running with this team.
He has, yeah. And the point of the story was to really identify a couple, I think, of the key questions about the whole, coaching change and what it really means for the organization, which was, how is Mike Macdonald going to coach this team? How is he going to coach it differently than Pete Carroll? And the other side of it was, what does John Schneider's new role in the organization mean? And so as it relates to Mike Macdonald, the answer is that, he's a much, much different coach than Pete Carroll in terms of their leadership style. They're going to try to win football games in essentially the same way, which is, relying on the defense and run game formula. But in terms of how they lead and how they interact with their players and just the way that they hold players accountable, it's a much different style. And I think that was the gist of the story is that, Mike Macdonald is he's very demanding and he's very direct and straightforward. And I didn't hear I talked to a number of Seahawks people for the story, obviously, and nobody came out and said it. But I think the clear subtext was, as far as Pete Carroll's leadership style took them, and he was a guy who would, as I wrote in the story, he would empower players and he would give them a lot of freedom, and he would deal with the downside of that approach, which was that, some guys that maybe weren't as disciplined, they would, take a lot of rope. And I think one of the things Pete Carroll did an incredible job of was he kept the lid on a lot of drama. And, he let, I think, a lot of drama happen because, when you let players be themselves, they're going to step out of line every now and again. And he kept the lid on a lot of that. And he really made that work quite well for 14 years. But there definitely is a downside to that approach. And I think the kind of sense I got from a lot of Seahawks people is they were ready for a different leadership style. They were ready for somebody who was going to run a tighter ship, and that's what Macdonald was doing.
Brady Henderson from ESPN.com joining us here on 620 Rip City Radio. And you mentioned John Schneider. And I think, again, I think we go back and look at maybe some of the conversation we were having in the summer, even in the spring, Brady, and then kind of look to where we are now. And obviously, a lot of that was about the quarterback and was about Geno Smith. And it's kind of the theme of the league, which is if you don't have your guy, you better be looking for your guy. And kind of looking back now in a market where you saw the Falcons and the Giants maybe overpay for certain quarterbacks and going and trying to find that guy. The Seahawks held pat, and I know some fans were maybe a little bit frustrated with that, but kind of looking at it now, and again, 3-0, a lot of football left to be played, but it seems as though kind of the right call in the quarterback market with Geno Smith and what the Seahawks already have, as opposed to maybe going out, overpaying, and overextending for maybe somebody that isn't going to get you much more value.
Yeah, it really is an interesting dynamic when you look at, you could look at the Seahawks quarterback situation and say, okay, well, there's this big question of, is Geno Smith a guy who can play well enough to get you to a Super Bowl? Is he the long-term answer? You can raise all those questions and look at their quarterback situation and say, yeah, not an ideal situation. You could also look at it the other way and say they're getting pretty good quarterback play for a lot less than what a lot of teams are paying for the same level of quarterback play, but they're paying, $50 million. I mean, if you look at where Geno Smith ranks in QBR over the last couple seasons, so, his 2+ seasons as their full-time starter, and if you look at what he's getting paid at $25 million per year, I mean, he's been a better quarterback than Trevor Lawrence, who's at the top of the market, along with Joe Burrow, at $55 million per year. I mean, you could go down the list. There's a number of other quarterbacks who are getting paid a lot more money than he is, and he has been either right there with them in terms of how he's played over the last 2+ seasons, or even in a lot of cases, he's been better than them. I mean, just to give you an idea of how, I hate to say that underpaid, because it's hard to imagine anybody with $25 million being underpaid, but the next quarterback ahead of him in terms of average per year is Baker Mayfield at $33.3 million, and Geno's at 25, and he's been a better quarterback than Baker Mayfield has the last couple of years, and that just gives you an idea of the gap. I think Geno is somewhere around like 19, 20 in terms of average per year that quarterbacks are making, and he's a lot higher than that in QBR. I haven't looked since the start of the season, but that was the case at the start of this year. So I think Geno, and again, I think I mentioned this last time I was on your show, last time I was on the program. I think that the 4 days that he missed in training camp when he kind of went down in practice and got a little banged up, and then he missed 4 days. I don't think he was faking an injury by any means. I think he was legitimately hurt, but I don't think it was a big deal. And I think that he was taking his sweet time getting back because he wanted to show the Seahawks. He wanted to kind of send a message and prove a point that, hey, you can get an idea of what life looks like without me. And you can watch Sam Howell, who's struggled badly. You can see what life is like without me, and you can really get a sense of how good I am and how underpaid I am. I really think that was part of his motivation in doing that.
Brady Henderson from ESPN.com covers the Seahawks, joining us on 620 Rip City Radio. Seahawks-Lions tonight on Monday Night Football. Brady, over the last handful of years, and I think obviously a lot of it was because Pete Carroll was a defensive coach, the same as Mike McDonald is, there's been an interesting relationship with the, let's say, the 12s and the offensive coordinators over the years. Some might say, a love-hate relationship. Some may call it even a toxic relationship, as a couple of guys were shown the way out of Seattle. Feels, though, again, very early. Ryan Grubb, pretty good fit with what the Seahawks have. Obviously, we talked a ton about with Geno Smith, but I know Grubb coming from college. He was there at Washington, decided, I might want to keep my house in Seattle and not move to Tuscaloosa, Alabama, which was an interesting decision. But it seems like so far so good the fit on Ryan Grubb as offensive coordinator.
Yeah, and that's a jump that you don't really see a lot in the NFL. You don't see a college offensive coordinator go straight to an NFL offensive coordinator job. And the game, there's obviously a ton that is the same, and a ton of what works in college is going to work in the NFL. But there are some different things, and the spacing is a lot different. And so I think he's doing a good job in that transition. I also think he's doing a good job in terms of overcoming kind of some deficiencies that they have right now. And the big one is the offensive line. And then, they haven't really had, I think, in large part because the offensive line has struggled, and obviously they missed Ken Walker for the past 2+ games. But, there's been times where it's felt like he's had to call a game with one hand tied behind his back. And so I think he's done a nice job of overcoming their offensive line issues. And they're really going to have to do that in this game because you're down to your third string right tackle in Stone Forsythe. You've got, some other guys are banged up along the offensive line. You've got just a kind of a really underwhelming, underperforming situation at both guard spots where both of those guys have underperformed, and you're playing in a domed stadium against what has been the best pass rusher in the NFL so far. Mm-hmm. So he's going to have to, scheme some things up to help Geno Smith out when it's going to be, I think, a lot of quick game stuff. You're going to have to move the pocket. You're going to have to keep a lot of tight ends in, maybe some, 3 tackle situations, 3 offensive tackles. So he's going to have to do a lot. He's going to have to mix things up, I think, because this is not a game where by any means they can just go drop back, 40 times and expect to not have Geno Smith get killed.
You mentioned it a couple times there, the injury situation that the Steelers, they're on TV right now, and I'm still frustrated about yesterday, but the Seahawks, dealing with some injuries. You talked about the offensive line and, of course, Ken Walker. What else is going on heading into tonight's game from the injury standpoint? Because I know you put up the injury report, and it's hefty. It's hefty, Brady.
It's not good. Yeah, they're going to get Ken Walker back from his oblique injury, but they are missing a whole lot of firepower up front. So no Uchenna Nwosu because of his MCL sprain that he's not been able to get back from. No Boye Mafe, who hurt his knee, I think, in the New England game, and then kind of re-injured it last week against Miami. So you're going to be missing your 2 best outside linebackers. They're going to be without Leonard Williams and Byron Murphy, 2 very important interior players. And then we'll see about Jerome Baker, their starting weak side linebacker, who's kind of been dealing with a hamstring injury for a while. So that is that's 4, maybe 5 of your best front 7 defenders. I mean, that's not a loss that many teams can overcome. Now, thankfully for them, they're very deep along the defensive line. And so, I mean, they may be able to, they've got some guys who have at least played some football who can come in and step in. But I look at this as a Mike McDonald scheme game. And, they're going to need Draymond Jones to step up. They're going to need Miles Adams, Mike Morris, all those guys, some other guys you maybe haven't heard a whole lot about to really step up. But more than anything, I think they need Mike McDonald to show off his, he's known as a brilliant defensive mind, and he's going to have to do something. He's going to have to throw some sort of change up at Detroit, something that they haven't really seen or aren't really expecting. There's got to be some sort of trick up their sleeve because I just don't think with all the personnel that they're missing, all the firepower they're missing up front, they can't go up and just line up against Detroit and try to do the same things they've been doing. As good as that scheme is, I don't think playing a straightforward game against Detroit with as much firepower as they're missing, I don't think they can afford to do that. This is a game that's going to be won or lost based on how well Mike McDonald can scheme some things up on defense.
Brady Henderson from ESPN.com joining us here on 620 Rip City Radio. It is Monday Night Football tonight. Seahawks taking on the Lions from Ford Field. Brady, for a while, Monday Night Football was it. It was kind of the one standalone game, and it was a very, very big deal. And then Sunday Night Football came in and kind of took its spot for a while. It feels like with the Manning cast and with other stuff that's going on, it feels kind of like Monday Night Football has got its swagger back, as the gift goes. I know you saw Jaden Daniels last week kind of got to have a moment on Monday Night Football. I know they got the 2 games tonight, but it does kind of give me the feel of like Monday Night Football has kind of got its groove back. What do you think?
Yeah, the Thursday night games, you just never know what you're going to get there in terms of like, are you going to be watching good football on Thursday night when guys are still banged up and short week and everything? So the Sunday night game, I've never been a huge fan of it just because even, obviously I'm usually working during the Sunday night games, but even when the Seahawks are on a bye and I'm just sitting watching football, by the time the Sunday night game rolls around, I'm usually just ready to get off my couch and kind of do something else. And so to me, the Monday night games are always going to be it. And, now they've got I like what they've done. And I'm not just saying this because they're my employer, but I like what ESPN has done with kind of repurposing the Phil Collins, in the air tonight. And they're really, kind of doing a updated version of that song as kind of the new Monday night theme music. And so, and Monday night has always been it for me, and not just because I work at ESPN.
Now I'm glad you brought that up, because we could talk about injury reports and Mike McDonald and all that stuff, but let's get into it, what you just mentioned there, which is the important stuff, the real nitty gritty, because there's a lot of people who would feel, and I'm not one of them, because I am a huge Chris Stapleton fan. Anything Chris Stapleton does, I am fully on board. The Snoop Dogg part of it, a little bit interesting, but you know what? Yeah. Snoop Dogg he is America's uncle. Everybody has to, but there's a lot of people, Brady, feel like In the Air Tonight should have been an untouchable song, and I maybe felt that way until I heard Chris Stapleton sing it, and I go, I'll be darned if that's not pretty stinking good. I don't want to say better, because Phil Collins was a master, but this is pretty stinking good.
I actually didn't know that it was Chris Stapleton. He's the guy singing it?
Yeah, that's Chris Stapleton. You should just... You've got... what have you got? You've got 13 hours? Or, well, no, that's... You got 10 hours. You got about 10 hours, Brady. Take 45 minutes. Go listen to some Stapleton. I know you're not a country guy, but you are a guitar-playing SOB, and I think you will appreciate... the versatility and the gravitas that Chris Stapleton sings with. So I would maybe give yourself 45 minutes in your nice Marriott I'm assuming it's a Marriott there in
You're correct.
Yeah, I knew it. There in the Detroit suburbs.
Okay, I'll check that out. That's good to know. My one suggestion, if they had asked me, and this is going to shock you, but in these big board meetings when they talk about big decisions, they actually don't invite me into those.
No,
but
let's go around the room. Henderson, what do you got?
Yeah, I would have said, okay, if you're not going to have Phil Collins sing the song, then what you should do is you should bring him back for the drum solo. So that you could suddenly flash to him and he's on the drums doing the drum solo. But even without that, I think it's a pretty cool song, and I will check out the Chris Stapleton version. I did not know that was him.
Yeah, I think they were like, Henderson, we'd love to bring Phil Collins back, but we spent all our money on Snoop Dogg. He is expensive. He's a tough get.
Yeah, exactly.
And he's everywhere too. Like, he's on The Voice. He was at the Olympics. It's just like, what a job. What a 180 from a guy who my parents would not let me listen to his CD when I was in middle school, to now just like he's the fun guy that just shows up at all the big events. Nice little turn on for Snoop Dogg. Yeah,
and it really is. Yeah, he has become just a kind of a cultural icon in that way, and that in a way that it would have, like you said, it would have been hard for people to imagine, 20 years ago when he was going through, legal stuff and all that. And so everybody loves Snoop Dogg.
Yeah, Google it, kids. It's still out there. Speaking of the internet, at Brady Henderson on X or Twitter, whatever you want to call it, is where you can find Brady. Obviously, ESPN.com is where you can see his articles, and you can hear him from time to time on this particular radio show. Hey, Brady, thanks so much, bud. Enjoy the game. Safe travels home, and we'll talk to you soon.
All right, thank you, my friend. Enjoy the game as well. See ya.
There you go, Brady Henderson, boys and girls. Yeah, Brenden, you know about Stapleton. That Stapleton, I'm not going to say better than Phil Collins, because that's not true, and I don't know if you can say that, but it's close. It's
my
close.
issue with that.
It's close. It's really good.
After a recent song, I kind of like the guy who used to do it.
The Phil Collins?
No, when Hank Williams was rocking it.
Yeah, but he said some stuff too.
Well,
you
that's
can't
why
say.
I said he's kind of.
He went on cable TV and said some stuff you can't say.
I think his star is getting brighter again.
Is he coming? He was the original cancel.
That's what I mean.
That was even cancel culture.
That's the Monday Night Football.
That was the original.
That's the one I remember. Now, I love Phil Collins too, and I'll say, but dude,
are you ready for some football? It's a banger. It is such a banger.
Nope, it's tough, man. It's tough.
All right, we're gonna wrap up hour number 2 next. 620 Rip City Radio. All right, coming up in, I think actually in about an hour or so, Blazer Media Day starts today. So Portland Trailblazer Media Day is going to be going on. We'll hear from head coach Chauncey Billups, and obviously the Blazers get ready for their 2024/2025 season.
Hear from Kling Kong.
Is that what we're calling him?
That's kind of my one thing I've came up with recently.
Kling Kong, huh?
It might not hit, but we'll see. We'll see.
I'm not immediately dismissing it.
I get it's very milk toast, as they would say.
Well, because when I hear Klingon, obviously the first thing I think of is Klingon. And I obviously not a big Star Trek fan, nor was I a big fan of The Next Generation. But I know of the Klingons, like I know they exist. I believe Worf on The Next Generation, I believe he was a Klingon. Had kids when I was in college that like spoke Klingon. Do you know that's a whole thing?
You can major in it.
There's a whole thing. Like they created a whole language. Kling Kong, huh?
Maybe it works. Maybe
Don't
it doesn't.
mind it.
We'll see.
My-
Gotta start hitting some threes.
I gotta hear it from. It's got like I want to hear the sound out of like Calabro, like or Travis Demers, like how that sounds out of either one of those. But like I don't hate it. I don't hate it. But yeah, got Donovan Klingon, got Scoot Henderson, Shane. You guys know all these players. Can I just go through the roster? Obviously newcomer in Nene Advia is going to be there, but we're going to hear from Joe Cronin. We're going to hear from Chauncey Billups. And they're going to have a ton of coverage later on this afternoon on Rip City Drive. We are going to have, obviously, a lot of stuff from Media Day as it is going to be going on while we are on the air right now. Tomorrow morning, so a handful of Media Day stuff happening here on the big show. And this is usually where we do stuff we saw on the internet. Have you seen the Bill Walton patch? It looks awesome.
I have.
It looks awesome. It stinks that we lost the legend and the way that it came about, but the patch that the Blazers are wearing looks pretty awesome.
It does. It does. You know, you got to give Big Red his due, man. You know, it was unfortunate when we lost him, and one of those sad situations, Justin, where you know, there's always a celebrity, like, you know, or for anybody, it's one of those moments where I will never forget where I was, because I was on a beach in Honolulu when I looked at my phone and saw that Bill Walton passed. And, you know, I think there's situations like that for everybody. Like, you know, I was here when I learned that so-and-so passed, or you know, just certain connections. And I remember it being a huge deal, and it like dominated that one day that I had in Hawaii, where I'm like, I got to see all this reactions and all that stuff. And, you know, again, is he the most, you know, I'm not wanting to open the can of worms into the greatest Blazer debate and all that, but I'll just sit here and say this. He got a title to this city no one else has, and that is something that should arguably have him a statue outside of Moda. It should.
I wasn't around, or maybe I was too young, both. When
Both.
Well, like, you know, they won it in 77, and by the time I was, you know, very, very young, was kind of the fight back of like the foot injury and his doctors and the Blazers doctors and people saying like, oh, is he breaking his foot because he's not eating meat because he's a vegetarian, which is very funny to think of now, because then we look at like Zion and we're like, maybe he should cut back on the steaks.
Be vegan.
Maybe he should eat a couple more salads. But it was funny that back then that was the whole thing. But it all kind of towards the end, I would say, universally beloved. There are some people that I think still, whether they have their reasons or not, feel a certain way about Clyde Drexler, about the way it ended with Clyde and the whole team. When I heard Clyde talk to Dwight and Chad last year, and he was like, hey, here's the way it went down, I was like, that makes a lot of sense. And obviously I think there are still some people that feel like, you know, the Dame breakup didn't need to happen. But I think by the end, I'm pretty sure every Blazer fan was like, yeah, Walton's our guy. Like, universally beloved figure. And, I mean, the patch is going to be awesome. I'm sure probably another tribute coming. It's going to be great. This is going to be such a weird season, isn't it? It's going to be such a weird season. Because
it will be in the sense of like, Justin, nobody in the fan base who, and this is, I'm trying to choose my words carefully.
Yeah, be very
but
careful.
like no one in the fan base really, I think there would be, and Sean Hyken mentioned it when we had him on early this week. There is a huge like worry in the fan base. Will they win too many games this year? And I think that's fascinating that Sean mentioned that when you guys talk about trades. You're like, any moves? And he's like, I know Blazer fans are worried this team could win too many games. And I know it's negative to go in. Like, they will be better probably than we've seen the last 2 years as far as a more complete and cohesive unit. They might still have the same number of wins because the West is stacked.
The West is so good.
And you need to capture the flag. So
well, and there's also a part of this where, and I thought Hyken brought it up, and nobody wants to say it, but it's like, oh, are they going to win too many games? Like, if they were going to win too many games, why didn't they do that last year? You know what I mean? They weren't actively tanking last year. Sure, they were taking their sweet time with injuries, which I understand, but it's not like they did like the year before where they're like, hey, Dame, you need to sit. You might win the scoring title and need you to sit down for like a month.
It's like, hey, Nurk, yeah, you're done.
Yeah,
hey, Simons, you're done.
You're done. Like, that was active
All
tank.
for Shaden Sharp, baby.
Which they were, and now you got Shaden, you got Scoot, you got Klingon, and you got like kind of a little young nucleus building. It's going to take some time. But yeah, like, I like Jeremy Grant and Matisse Thybulle as much as the next guy, but if they were going to help the Blazers win 50 games, they would have done it. I don't know. It's going to be interesting. If I gave you 24 and a half over under, 24 and a half this year over under for the Blazers, because
let's see.
I believe last season, what were they last? I think didn't they 25 wins last season?
Like a pilot. We're reaching cruising altitude, folks. Let's see. 21 wins last year.
They were.
So
21 and 61. Like you said, they could be better, yet still only win 21 games because the West is really good. Like, really good.
What was the number you said? 24?
24 and a half over under.
I'm going to go under.
You're going to go under?
Like you said, the problem is, Justin, we ran through this like 2 weeks ago. There is nobody in the West who I can, like, maybe they beat a team on a good night, like they hit their shots. But, like, in the West, like,
every team's better than them in the West.
Like, we look and we're like, oh, yeah, the next closest team is probably the Grizzlies, who led the West
I don't think so.
2 years ago.
Grizzlies are going to be good because Jaw's going to be back, and I think he's going to be on a mission.
Right. So, like,
I think the next team to them, I think, is the Rockets.
And they even got,
and they're not
they've
bad.
got established veteran talent.
Maybe the Jazz. Be interesting to see what the Jazz do.
Yeah, they did just give Markkanen a bag, though.
All right, coming up next, we've got more college football talk. Oh, Kalen DeBoer does it again. Alabama, are they the best team in the country? And some playoff prognostication. Hour number 3 next, 620 Rip City Radio.
8 a.m. on a Monday. Brenden Slaughter with you for Rip City Mornings. The Oregon Ducks improved to 4-0 on the year with a 34-13 win over UCLA at the Rose Bowl. The Ducks climbed to number 6 in the latest AP poll, up 2 spots from number 8 a week ago. Seattle takes on Detroit at Ford Field tonight, looking to improve to 4-0 on the year. We just caught up with Brady Henderson. Make sure to check out that interview at ripcityradio.com for previewing that matchup with the Lions and much more. And then big stuff coming up on the show today as Rip City Drive is going to be all at Blazers Media Day today. Big day for the Trailblazers, so make sure to stay locked to Chad Dewing, Dwight James, and the whole afternoon crew. Then we'll have stuff about it tomorrow morning here on Rip City Mornings as well. You got final hour. Rip City Mornings on a Monday.
Hey, welcome back to Rip City Mornings, everybody. Hopefully you are all having a fantastic Monday morning. Again, thanks to Brady Henderson for joining us last hour. Got doubleheader on Monday Night Football, including Seahawks and the Lions. Seahawks 3-0. And you are what your record is in the NFL, but can't really say they've been tested all that much. This will be a test. They're going up against the Detroit Lions at Ford Field. Those fans are going to be fired up. You got Aiden Hutchinson, who I think early on, is he the sack leader in the NFL right now? Or I think he leads in QB pressures or any of that stuff. So Aiden Hutchinson is going to be a bear. So we got Monday Night Football coming up. On tomorrow's show, we got a full, comprehensive look back at the week it was in the NFL. But college football obviously dominated the weekend, and talked about it in the first hour of the program. I wonder, when we look back in December at the playoff committee, because this is the thing about college football that is fascinating, but it's also infuriating, is that things happen in the league, and then we think, oh, boy, that's going to be – and then 2 or 3 weeks go by, and we instantly forget about it. Oregon fans worried about the Boise State game in week 2, and I understand where that worry was coming from, but there's worry for 2 reasons. One, the worry is Oregon that good? Have they maybe been overhyped? And 2, the worry is, boy, if you only beat Boise by 3 – is that going to hurt you in the polls? It did hurt them in the polls. Here's the thing. The polls don't matter. Especially September games don't matter. Also, as we are looking at the polls right now, yes, if Oregon wants to compete with the top teams in college football, and Alabama, Georgia look to be at a different level. Now, that happens sometimes. Haven't seen Ohio State. Oregon, Ohio State may turn out to be as good of a game as that Alabama, Georgia game. I don't know if it is. I don't know if anything could match that Alabama-Georgia game. That was unbelievable.
What time is that Ohio State-Oregon game?
I do not believe they have announced it yet.
Okay.
That is one we are going to have to wait for. Curiously, right now, it is TBD.
I'd say maybe big noon. Does that strike you as a big noon, or do you think
I don't think they can do big noon kickoff because big noon is East Coast, so they're not going to play that game at 9 a.m.
You're right.
It's in Eugene.
It's true.
It's
a great, maybe night game? No.
I'm guessing like a 4
They couldn't
o'clock?
go any later than 5 for the East Coast.
I don't know what the window is.
Anywho, just curious.
Probably a 5 o'clock game, but it might be as big of a game as Alabama, Georgia, but I don't know if anything's going to be able to match that. But Miami sneaks away with a win. We can't figure out replay in college football. Again, I watched that replay of the Miami-Virginia Tech game. I watched it 14, 15 different times. And, yeah, didn't look like it was a touchdown, but it didn't look like it wasn't a touchdown either. And the fact is, I turned on College Game Day the next morning. Half the panel was like, that was a touchdown. The other half was like, well, that wasn't a touchdown. And that's got massive playoff implications as Miami sits at number 8 in the country. Oregon moves up 2 spots because of the Ole Miss loss. And Miami moved down 1 spot because of the close win against Virginia Tech. But Georgia still stays ahead of Oregon. That frantic comeback for the Georgia Bulldogs in the second half of that game. You want to talk about, again, we're going to be talking about playoff implications a lot. Because, look, Georgia has to play at Texas, at Ole Miss, and they still have Tennessee at home on the schedule. It's not an easy road for the Georgia Bulldogs. Now, I think they're going to be favored in all but one of those games because when we'll see what happens with Texas, I think Texas at home, I think gets the edge over Georgia. But Georgia has at Texas, at Ole Miss, and I know Ole Miss lost, but they're still pretty good. And then they still got to play Tennessee. They might take another L somewhere. And if they would have gotten blown out, and it looked for a moment, what was it, 28-7 at the half, it looked like Alabama was going to blow them out. It's like, this is, Jalen Milroe is on fire, which he was. DeBoer's got everything figured. What was it on Remember the Titans? He's 2 steps ahead of you, coach. He's miles ahead of you, coach. First off, shut up, assistant coach. You don't just say that to your head coach. But that's what it felt like. The fact that Georgia came back, scored 19 fourth-quarter points, actually took the lead before some 17-year-old kid in Alabama who's better than almost everybody else in the country saves DeBoer's bacon. That comeback for Georgia, when they start talking playoff time, that comeback might have saved Georgia's playoff life.
Yes,
because if Georgia loses another game and it's all of a sudden a debate, you go, well, they lost by, one score and had the lead in the fourth quarter against Alabama. That's going to be part of the debate.
Now, I'll say this.
I mean?
It will be, but am I alone for feeling this way? It also, like, as great as it felt, it also was like, meh, in the sense of, like, both teams could lose this game and still make the playoff. It's just very different than in the past where it's like.
Well, that's going to be the unintended. Well, it wasn't intended because I kept saying it forever. That's going to be one of the broken eggs of the omelet of the playoff.
Gotcha. Yeah.
It's just going to happen.
Because I sat there and I'm like, okay, this is a great game. The worst case, lose is probably still going to make the playoff,
But here's what I was happy about. And again, I will come in here and say I wasn't wrong because I'm still right about this. The game still felt huge, though. And I worried that you were going to lose those kind of atmospheres with a playoff system. And the other thing is, Brenden, Georgia could have packed it up and been like, not our day. Let's pack it up. Let's get it. The fact that they came back and nearly won the game. Because, if that game happens in the NFL, I think there's like, let's pack it in. We'll play another day. It's just not our day. They're in our huddle. They got us. Well, they came back, frantic comeback, had Alabama on their heels. That was an unbelievable game. Other game with playoff implications was Boise at Washington State. Now, Boise beat the dog out of the Cougs. It was 45-24. Ashton Jeanty is a Heisman Trophy. All right. I know it's a little too early for the Heisman, and I think Dylan Gabriel can get back in the Heisman discussion with a performance against Ohio State in 2 weeks. But right now, in no particular order, it's Milroe, it's Jeanty, and it's Travis Hunter. Travis Hunter is unbelievable. There's not one coach in America that wouldn't be like, yep, I will trade you my best player for him. Travis Hunter should be at the Heisman. He does everything. Jeanty is the best running back and might be the best weapon. And I know we're not there yet in college football, and I hope we never get there. Brendan, are we ever going to get to a place where, like, Boise is going to be like, hey, Oregon, we'll trade you Jeanty for a couple of future first-round recruits. I know it's never going to happen, but, like, I couldn't help but think, as Ashton Jeanty is once again putting it on what used to be a Power 5 team in Washington State, in the biggest game on the blue turf since Oregon visited there in 2009, I kept thinking, there's a lot of boosters around the country that would pay so much money for Jeanty to transfer to their team right now. Do you think we're ever going to get an in-season transfer?
No.
Like, because in the NFL, you can trade in season. I don't think we are either, but
I think there's too many academic considerations. That's also
that's right. They still go to school, don't they?
Yeah, I mean that's you cannot leave a school in the middle of a term and then go to another school that could be on different schedules, different classes, all that.
How much money would Genty make in an NIL deal if you were like, hey, week 6 moving forward, how much would Genty make?
All right, $1 million.
So much money.
Now, that being said, Justin, where there is a will, there is a way. I now learned, and again, this, someone will go, well, you could have learned that from before, Brenden, but watching the Aaron Hernandez show, I learned that Urban Meyer's like, hey, we want Aaron Hernandez to graduate. Okay, yeah, cool, we'll graduate him early. Let's figure it out. So sometimes academics can be...
There's a system in place.
Yeah, so I'll say
there's a lot of online courses.
But in-season...
And there's a lot, let's just say there's a lot of paths to graduation.
In-season still seems tricky to me,
yeah, I don't think it's
problematic. Like, imagine if UNLV's quarterback went and played for, like, Nevada, for instance.
Mm-hmm.
Like, he's like, yeah, I'm done after 3 games, and takes a week off. He's like, hey, I'm at Nevada now. Like... It just can't work. Not right now, anyway.
I don't want it to be like this.
No,
but
me
I'm
neither.
just throwing in a pure hypothetical.
Because
when was the last time we've seen somebody
It's not so pure.
in a group of 5 as good as Ashton Genty? Like, when was the last time we've seen that? I'm sure, like, we probably think somebody in the NFL that came, but, like, right now, there's not a running back in the country that's as good as that dude. Whew. Oh, boy. He's so good.
Who was the other dude? There was somebody else who had been putting up pretty stupid running back stats this year, too.
But, I mean, I think right now it's even with Boise's loss to Oregon, but the fact that it's a 3-point loss, Oregon's sitting 6th in the country.
No, he casually leads by 200 yards after yesterday.
It's insane. How many touchdowns?
13. Next closest has 10 from Iowa.
He's got 13 touchdowns.
Probably.
We're a third of the way through the season.
He's almost got 1,000. Actually, he does. I think he already has. Okay, not much as a receiver. Only 19 yards receiving. So
I don't think they need to have him.
Yeah.
Turn around and hand the ball off to that dude. He's so good. He's so good at football.
But he's only a junior, Justin. So here's the thing. They're going to. This year was, well, one of two things going to happen. This is his year, his little cute year where he's like, oh, I'm so loyal to Boise. I'm so like Damian Martinez, right?
No, he's going straight to the NFL.
Or the NFL. Well, or do you, like Justin said, you get sometimes running backs don't go first round. You get a fat bag to go play somewhere. Running backs are treated, the days of Saquon going number 2 overall, probably gone.
All right, we got like 45 seconds.
So fair question.
And I don't want, if you're Ashton Genty, you get a 3rd-round grade.
I'm coming back.
Well, no, I'm not coming back.
Well, not to Boise, but somewhere else. Somewhere else.
I'm going to Oregon. I'm going to USC. I'm going to be at Texas. I'm going to be somewhere.
Guaranteed money in case I get hurt. That's all I got to say. But yeah, 100%. I mean, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe he's the guy and they're like, oh, can't miss. He's going to go first round. Good for you, kid. But you know how running backs have been treated, Justin.
I know.
You draft him in the 3rd round after 3 years. You're like, yep, all right, give it up. On to the next one.
Dude.
You're just cycled through in the pros, man.
Where's he from? Oh, he's from Florida.
That's what I said. What if Miami comes calling?
Cristobal's going to go get him. It's going to drive me nuts. All right. We have got a special 3rd hour edition of Make or Miss. That's next, 620 Rip City Radio. All right, coming up this afternoon, Chad and Dwight are going to have a ton of stuff from Blazers Media Day as Chauncey Billups, Joe Cronin, Scoot, Shaden, Ant, Klingon, DeAndre, bunch of one-namers on this team. But it is Blazers Media Day currently going on right now, and a bunch of stuff coming up on Rip City Drive this afternoon. Now, speaking of Rip City Drive, I want to let you know, Ticket Tuesday, we continue into the month of October. That's right, because each and every Tuesday with Chad and Dwight, that's tomorrow from 3 to 6. Your chance to win tickets to a Trailblazer home game. That's right. Each and every Tuesday on Rip City Drive, your chance to win a Trailblazer ticket. Also, you can get single game tickets now at trailblazers.com. It's Trailblazer Ticket Tuesday from Rip City Radio. And while you're listening to either us or the guys in the afternoon or anytime in between here at Rip City Radio, we want to give you $1,000. Why? Because it is cash for the sixth man. So keywords each and every weekday from 6 a.m. to 7 p.m. on the 15s for chances to win $1,000. They call that a grand. And it would be grand if you won it 13 times a day. And again, go to ripcityradio.com. All the details are there. We had Brady Henderson who joined us in hour number 2, which means we pulled the old switcheroo. Make or miss is right now.
All right, we got to start here because we have not mentioned it. There will never be another Mount Matumbo.
No, one of the all-timers. If you have missed the news, a handful of minutes ago, it was announced Dikembe Mutombo passed away. He was fighting brain cancer.
But 58, Justin, that is too early to lose somebody.
It is. That's why.
Way too early, man.
I mean, obviously, Oregon's doing a whole Stomp Out Cancer rollout this week. Cancer sucks. It's the worst. It's just there's no other way to put that. But the guy,
one of the GOATs, man.
He is one of the all-time great personalities in the game of basketball. A guy. All right. The lasting image I'll have multiple lasting images of Mutombo, but the lasting image that I will have will be, I believe it was 1994, and it was a first round. The Seattle Supersonics were the number 1 seed. My apologies to Supersonics fans who may be listening in our audience. They were the number 1 seed. They had the Rain Man. They had the glove. Jordan's retired. Here come the Son. Mutombo and the Nuggets. At that time, I believe that was the biggest upset in NBA playoffs history. Now, that would be eclipsed by the Golden State Warriors when they took down the Dallas Mavericks. But in 1994, the scene of Mutombo laying on the floor with the basketball as the Nuggets upset the number 1 seeded Seattle Supersonics, and they moved on. That's kind of that lasting image. And even if you are a diehard Seattle Supersonics fan, that normally would be an image that would haunt you, and it kind of does. But Mutombo, we talked about it with Bill Walton towards the universally beloved. There's not a basketball fan alive, Brenden, that didn't like Dikembe Mutombo. There's nothing not to like about him. Played the game hard, incredibly talented, great personality. Even when he would do the and wag the finger, it still wasn't like you hated it. It was just that guy's. That's his thing. And, of course, there's the one scene, I think it was at an All-Star game, might have been in a regular season game, where him and Jordan were kind of jawing back and forth, and Jordan said, "Hey, Mutombo," and he closed his eyes and made a free throw, and then Mutombo came down and dunked, and, yeah, just one of the most unique personalities, players in all of basketball and all of sports, and, yeah. Guy that's missed. Guy's going to be missed. Fun guy to watch. Fun guy to watch play the game of basketball. And you very rarely, when do you get someone who is that universally liked? Usually there's always some hater out. Nobody out there hated Mutombo. Even if you hated him, it was like, God, that guy, he always gets us. But I will always think of Mutombo laying down on the court at now Climate Pledge, then Key Arena, and just basketball going like, holy cow, we did it. Sad day in basketball. Awkward transition. Let's move on. What do we got next?
Yeah, definitely had to give him his honor there. But let's go ahead and move on. There's lots of fun stuff to talk about.
Because you think about any other player that would do the wag a finger, like it would. Everybody, like, we'd have debate shows going like, is this taunting? Should the league allow this? Blah, blah, blah. Mutombo did it, and it was like, he's just having fun. He's having fun. All right.
Yeah, up next on Make or Miss, Tom Brady put Baker Mayfield down.
Okay, help me out with this. I've seen a lot of things this weekend. I missed the Tom Brady Baker Mayfield thing. What happened here?
It's almost kind of like Kendrick Lamar putting Drake in a body bag. Same kind of thing.
What happened here?
So Baker Mayfield went on a podcast earlier this week, before their game this weekend, and said, I was brought in to bring fun back to Tampa. Guys weren't having fun before I was here.
Yes.
Then Tom Brady clapped back and said, well, this isn't daycare. You want fun? That's a Super Bowl winning mentality. And I look at someone like Baker, who up until this year, or maybe last, has been a career disappointment. And I'm sorry, dude. You don't get to go around and throw shots at the GOAT. Man.
All right. I'm going to take the other side on this.
That's fine.
Because I always kind of like Baker Mayfield.
Before or after he grabbed his crotch on live TV.
Even still, like, that's not the way I would taunt. But
it's not the way.
The idea that he was still just, like, so mad at Kansas.
What would you have... Okay, Justin, what would have happened
that wouldn't be my particular way of saying,
what would have happened
take
to you
that, but...
At Douglas High School.
Oh, dude.
If you pulled that after a touchdown to the opposing crowd. I'm just curious.
I'd be running till I barfed. Yeah, I'd be running until I barfed. That's exactly what would happen.
Classic.
I would be running until... All right. I didn't hear the podcast, and I didn't hear the retort. It didn't seem like it was a shot at Brady. Because wasn't there a gap between Brady and Baker? Or was there no gap?
No gap.
Okay.
No gap.
Maybe it was,
Baker was chilling with, as I recall,
because he said it was taken out of context. I don't know.
It was a little bit. It was just kind of one of those very Baker things. Like, hey, we're winning, we're having fun. It wasn't so much fun when I got here, and I get that because it wasn't. Bruce Arians retired, Brady left, and you don't think that team was depressed when Brady left and they had Kyle Trask at quarterback as the successor? Yeah, of course. You win a Super Bowl, and then it's like, hey, we're going to go back-to-back, and then it kind of fell apart quickly. But Baker had that little stint with the Rams, came over to the Buccaneers, and again,
they made the playoffs last year.
They've talked about it a couple times on this morning. Actually, I think it was yesterday. I heard this for the first time with Teddy Bruschi, who obviously was a big-time teammate of Tom Brady's, and he's like, I worked with Tom Brady when we won 23 games in a row. Like, do you think that was fun?
Yeah, no. That's the one thing I got from like that Dynasty documentary was
Tom Brady is.
They were like by
business.
about middle of the Patriots run, everybody was ready to get out. Here's what I think. I think Baker Mayfield said the quiet part out loud.
He did.
He said the quiet part out loud. That Tom Brady is the greatest. Same with Michael Jordan, right? Playing
similar.
Playing for those guys must have sucked. But you know what was awesome? Having champagne poured on your head. That's, you know what I mean? Having champagne poured on your head that you didn't pay for, you know what I mean? And having parades and all of that. That's all awesome. Every other part of it, when dealing with those guys, must have been a big old pain in the backside. So I kind of see where Baker is coming from.
That's a good comparison because I remember.
But like, I also think if you're Tom Brady, like, maybe don't punch down, you punch up. Maybe just go, or just go like, I don't know, my rings are in my ears, I couldn't hear, I don't know. Something like that.
He says the quote is, I thought stressful was not having Super Bowl rings. This wasn't daycare.
Yeah.
And that is a classic dad
I want to argue against it because I like Baker. You can't, yeah.
That's a classic dad move right there.
This isn't daycare.
Brady with a dad. But hey, it's like
it is the worst no, I shouldn't say the worst thing. It is an eye-opening thing of anybody that's been an athlete. And again, I was an athlete at a very low level, right? I played junior college, but like there is a moment when you do take sports seriously and you get to the level you're like, oh, so we're not having fun anymore. And nobody here cares if we're having fun. It's like, Coach, this ain't fun. I don't care. And it's like, whew.
Yeah. So,
oh boy, and I couldn't even imagine what the NFL is like.
Yeah. So the full, listen, just for full context, Baker said the building was different with Tom in there. Obviously, playing wise, Tom is different. He had everybody dialed in, high strung environment, so everybody was stressed out. They wanted me to come in, be myself, bring the joy back to football. That part of it is a little, really? We won a Super Bowl within the last 2 years, fellas.
He could have ended it right with they wanted me to come in and be myself.
Yes.
Yes. And I'm different than Tom. He could have just ended it there.
And then Tom goes.
Now, so can I say, to Baker's credit, it'd be the dog out of the Philadelphia Eagles yesterday.
That was such a great game. But I love
this. Obviously, this was not a distraction because when all this is going on, Baker Mayfield, 347 yesterday? I love ticked off Baker. He's like,
it's true, right?
He is fun to watch. Like, you talk about the whole Kansas. You remember how that whole thing with him grabbing his junk? You remember how that whole thing started? Because Kansas wouldn't shake his hand at the coin flip. And he put it on you're the Kansas Jayhawks. I don't know if he knew about this before the game. Probably had to have. 343.
Yeah,
343 and hammer into the Eagles. Oh, man.
Yeah.
And did he run one in again? He ran one in, too.
Oh, I know, because I played against him yesterday, Justin. In fan. Well, I won. I overcame Baker's 40-point. It was tough, but overcame it. But no, Brady finished it off by saying,
do you get penalties like on your fantasy team if like one of your players fumbles at a crucial situation?
Yeah, so I had -2. I had -2 from George Pickens yesterday.
What about when they fumble like inside the red zone? Should it be like -8?
No,
that's just my.
But it was
just
not. I said, other than that fumble, he had a nice day for me yesterday.
Yeah.
But no, Brady
taking
finished
points off the board is really nice.
He finished
when you lose
the quote
by 3 and you just take points off the board like that.
By saying,
it's not like it's the NFL or anything.
If I was going to have fun, I would go to Disneyland with my kids. Ouch. That's another one right there, man.
This ain't daycare. I love it.
Yeah. So
that's good.
Anywho,
It's a good.
All right, let's.
It's a good line, and it didn't like. It wasn't a complete like. Do you know who I am, or who do you think? It was just like
just a reminder. Right?
Yeah, that's cute. You won the division, and you made and you played in the divisional round.
Yeah,
cute.
Like I have 7. Right? I mean, I don't know. I mean, but at the same token, is this any different than? And again, this isn't even trash, but it's like we've seen this movie before.
These players got to stop going on these podcasts, man.
Dude, it's true.
You get so
it's true.
You sit there for an hour and you just start talking and like.
Maybe it's because he's and I always thought for celebrities, I'm like, okay, it's because they're having drinks, right? The juices are flowing, right? They're having some beverages. These athletes are not drinking on these podcasts.
No,
Justin.
but you do see it.
I don't know, the casuality where that comes from.
Well, you've seen it though, where you're just sitting there talking and you just kind of forget that their microphones are in front of your face and they're recording everything. You know what I mean? Like you just kind of forget.
I mean,
you're just talking with your boys.
Do you?
No, because I'm dialed in. I'm live.
Right.
That's
how I feel too. Like
I don't do a
way.
podcast, Brenden. We are live every day. We are playing.
I do both. So
we play big boy football up here on Rip City mornings. We walk a tightrope. So no, I never forget that this microphone is in front of me because I forget one time. It's all gone.
But it is, to that point, it is hilarious.
So many times I wished I could go back and just, hey, remember the thing I said 2 hours ago? Can you just cut that? Yeah. Nope.
Yeah, exactly.
Consequences up here.
Yeah.
Live radio.
All righty. Well, let's move on here and make or miss. Get into, let's just start here because this is a pretty funny story from over the weekend. You got to score points to win games, and Graham Harrell found that lesson out the hard way this weekend.
So Purdue fired Graham Harrell.
Justin called this before the season started. He came back from Big Ten Media Days, and he goes,
Purdue stinks.
Well, Brenden, you got at least one win on your schedule because Purdue sucks. You didn't say stinks. You said sucks.
I did.
And I appreciate it because
I try to clean it up for the morning crowd. People are
that's
driving
still pretty G-rated, Justin. I'm not going to lie.
My mom, who might be listening right now, and I'll know because she'll text me,
Mrs. Nancy Myers?
Mrs. Nancy
There you go.
Myers.
Yeah.
She hated it when we said that sucks. And that was a bad word in our house.
It was?
Yeah. So that's probably why I say it stinks. Because probably even to this day, that sucks. And she's like, we would get in trouble. As if I said the F word.
For me, that was stupid.
See, we could say anything stupid.
Weird as that was.
That is a Gen Z or that's a millennial thing.
Mom and Dad did
Can't
not
say stuff is stupid.
Yeah, we did not. Mom and Dad did not. Well, hey, they were also like, again, as it shouldn't surprise anyone now. Brenden was a little bit of a talkative, sometimes borderline mouthy kid, right? So how would you expect that to go when you have kids that back talk and all those things? So I kind of learned the pecking order of things as I grew up. But yeah, no, definitely a funny moment there, Josh.
But I guess. And again, they fired the defensive or the offensive coordinator at Purdue. You would think giving up 66 points to Notre Dame and then giving up, they give like 200. How many yards did they give up on the ground to the Beavs? Purdue?
Almost. Yeah. Yeah, almost 300. Almost 300.
The defense coordinator, he keeps his job, though. Okay.
That's true.
I mean, I guess, like you said, you got to put up points, but I mean, if you're Graham Harrell and you're walking out going like, wait.
Because
I didn't give up 66 points, and I didn't give up nearly 300 yards on the ground to Oregon State.
It's true.
As a matter of fact, I had the ball for like 4 minutes in Corvallis.
It's true. But then they'd go.
And he gets fired.
And they'd go, yeah, but it was funny. Attached to the story, because Adam Rittenberg, friend of the program, wrote the story yesterday, and attached to that was Hudson Card's crazy interception against the Beavers. Like, that was the clip. Was Purdue fires offensive coordinator, and the clip attached to it was when he threw it off his shoe and into Oregon State players' hands. So, that sums up their season pretty well so far. And, Nebraska and Dylan Raiola, they kicked the teeth out of him yesterday. Like, they stink, whatever.
Is Nebraska good?
They might be. You've talked about Matt Rule. And
I mean, I think they're going to be good. They lost to Illinois. Illinois lost to Penn State. There is a smudge in the Big Ten that I hope Oregon stays above. I hope Oregon, Ohio State, Penn State, I think they're all kind of. And then there's an Illinois, there's a Nebraska, there's a Michigan, there's a USC, smishmash kind of in the middle there. Iowa might be in there as well. Of like, if you don't play your best, they can beat you, but I don't think they're going to the playoffs. Do you know what I mean? In the Big Ten? Where are those teams at?
Remember when you were worried about Purdue on the Friday night, Justin?
I hate short week games on the road.
Be. Oregon could probably walk in there. That's a term I cannot use, but walk in there real half flock. Let's say that. Half flock.
By the way, remember when I came back and I said Purdue is not going to be good in the Big Ten. Do you remember what team I did say was going to surprise some people?
Kirk Cignetti.
I said Indiana is going to be good.
You did. What are
they? They are 4-0.
I have not looked. But you told me, too. You're like,
they are 4-0.
You're like, he took everybody from James Madison. You said it was like.
They beat UCLA 42-13. And they just beat Maryland this week 42-28.
Now,
they've scored 77, 42, 52, and 42.
Winning coach.
Indiana's good.
Yeah, winning coach, very Kalen DeBoer-esque with where he came from. Now, I'll say this, Justin. Again, it's early, and he's winning with talent that you told me, I think they lead the FBS. He brought over the entire James Madison team. It was like 17 players in the portal. And James Madison, as we know, was a top 25 team who stole a game day bid from Reser Stadium last year.
Here we go. 45 seconds. Let's do this. Indiana schedule. They play at Northwestern this week. Let's see. I don't have a line. I don't have a line on that game. They play at Northwestern. I think they're going to beat Northwestern. They get Nebraska and Washington then at home on back-to-back weeks. At Michigan State. I mean, is it crazy they go 8-0 before they play Michigan?
Well, like you said, they're favored 2 touchdowns against Northwestern.
2 touchdowns. How come I didn't see that? Anyways.
Well, I think you flipped Nebraska and Northwestern. They play Northwestern next, and then Nebraska.
Yes.
I think you flipped them.
So they're 14-point favorites against Northwestern.
So, yeah, Northwestern ain't
They
going
get
to
Nebraska and Washington at home.
I look at the end of the year.
They could be 8-0 by the time they play Michigan.
They will probably lose to Michigan, Ohio State. Unfortunately, as much as I don't want them to be, Michigan State has shown to be competent this year.
They keep turning the ball over, though.
It's true. Aiden Childs is a turnover machine.
He really is. Hope he turns the ball over a bunch on Friday.
Me too.
All right. Coming
Me
up
too.
next, we wrap up the big show with, what is it? Oh, yeah, it's the RCM mailbag. Hey, before we do, I want to let you know, again, I know I told you earlier, but it is $1,000 cash for the sixth man here on Rip City Radio. Each and every weekday, 6 a.m. to 7 p.m. on the 15th, your chance to win $1,000 13 times a day. All the details at ripcityradio.com. Mailbag next, 620 Rip City Radio. All right, make sure you tune in to Rip City Drive later on this afternoon. Blazers Media Day coverage. Obviously, a ton of stuff on the upcoming season. And then tomorrow, we will we'll hear from Coach Billups. We will hear from Joe Cronin. We'll hear from all the pertinent players, as we'll have a ton of stuff for Media Day tomorrow on the big show. And then tomorrow afternoon, I know I'm getting a little ahead of myself, but you want to remember it because it's Tuesday. And what is that? Well, it's still Ticket Tuesday. And when the calendar flips to the month of October, we flip Ticket Tuesday to start offering up Trailblazer home game tickets each and every Tuesday with Chad and Dwight. So make sure you listen each and every Tuesday to Rip City Drive for your chance to win a pair of tickets to the upcoming Blazer game. Or you can buy single game tickets now at trailblazer.com. It's Trailblazer Ticket Tuesday from Rip City Radio. Let's open up the mailbag.
All right, Justin, firing
Yeesh.
a big mailbag here on a Monday. Going to take you to the dinner table at our house last night where we had a...
What do we have? What do we have for dinner?
Excuse me, 2 nights ago. 2 nights ago, and it was cod. It was very delicious.
Okay.
Very delicious.
I made a delicious meat marinara sauce.
Spaghetti or pasta?
Pasta.
Okay.
Saturday cheat night.
Nice.
Went pasta.
Nice.
Rigatone.
I do
Went
like
with the rigatone, the spirals.
it's good pasta.
And then I threw in some sausage and hamburger. And then, did that. Anyways, you had a delicious white fish.
Oh, it's yeah. So it was, just like.
Did you throw a sauce on there?
It was like, so we got enough fish. We had it twice this last week. Had once, did the beer batter deep fried. Oh, so good.
Hey.
And then later in the week, did the healthier option, baked it in the oven with, garlic and butter and
Healthier with all the butter, yeah.
Well, Parmesan. It's baked, Justin.
It's baked.
It's not fried. Not fried, baby. But
It's still
anywho,
good.
so this whole conversation started, Justin, and I'm going to need you to take off your glasses because I know there's a few.
I don't wear glasses. 20/20 vision.
There's a few shows that you put blinders on. But in this case, I want to know, when did network television die?
Oh,
Because this conversation started where we're like, mostly because one of the new shows that have been popping up was, I don't know if you've seen it, Justin, was Dr. Odyssey.
Watched it. Watched the first episode.
So
That's Pacey. It's Pacey Witter.
So
It's also Spazaway from Mighty Ducks.
So I'm curious your thoughts, because Mom watched it, and she was like, I am so out. This is so stupid.
What?
The writing is terrible.
False?
Wow. Okay.
Hate to disagree.
First disagreement we have then.
Your mom and I normally watch,
She said it's cringy.
it's not good.
She said cringy.
It's bad in a fun way.
See, but that's what you say about like Fire Country and these other
Yeah.
shows. So my
That's what
point
I'm here
in this
for. I'm not.
is a Lost, an Alias, a Big Bang Theory, 24.
Yeah.
These shows that
Well, here's what happened.
Netflix got all the money.
Couple of things. I think it was a perfect storm of three things. If I could put on my network TV executive hat.
Let's go, Ted Turner.
First thing is the shows that only do 10 episodes could do them like way better, right?
Agreed.
You do way better. It's just 10
Well, they used to be 20. So
versus 23,
just saying, yeah.
which is like Grey's Anatomy. It's been 23 episodes
I
a
know.
season, and still rolling. Versus 10, right? You do like 10 episodes of Breaking Bad, and it's like you could do some intense stuff. You do intense stuff for 20 episodes. You're like I remember The Blacklist. I'm like, at some point, are we going to get to the end of this Blacklist?
Well,
You
that's
know
what I
mean?
felt about, like, I don't know. Like,
So there's that. There's that part of it, which is those. Second thing is, like you mentioned, we got on Netflix, and we want all of our shows at once. Season dump. Here's.
but Netflix is the only one that does that.
I know, but I think we like it that way. Didn't The Bear do that?
Or The Bear. Okay. But, like, in general, like, we're waiting weekly for Tulsa King. We're waiting weekly for...
Tell me about it. And I also don't like that Netflix with the Great British Bake Off, they do the weekly thing. And I don't like it, Netflix. I want them all there. And then the third thing is with DVRs and then DVRs to streaming, there is no more Growing Pains is on Tuesdays at 8:30.
Right.
Do you know what I mean? that was where network TV was like appointment viewing, and it really kind of ended with Game of Thrones on Sunday night.
I think you're right. That's a very good pull for Thrones, because there was not a TV show that I loved more growing up than Lost. It was fabulous, fantastic. It appealed to the 10-year-old in me until I was 16. And I look at that show now, and it is still looked at very positively later in life. And you're like, there is not a chance in you-know-what that ABC would ever get that quality of a show again.
And I'll bet you if you go back and rewatch it, you'll be like, there's a couple of episodes. We could trim the fat on it. Here's the other thing. I also believe, because
trim the fat.
I lived through fire all the fat people.
Great reference. Colin Farrell, too. His star's pretty hot.
There was a time, especially with Game of Thrones and with Lost and with 24.
24
and
is so
with,
good, too, man.
All those shows, even
Jack
Breaking
Bauer.
Bad. You had to watch it when it was on TV because people would spoil it. It would spoil it. I think as a TV watching culture now, we know not to spoil things. We know. Like, we don't come on here and talk about, certain things because I don't want to spoil it for someone. I'm waiting for, episodes to build up. So I think that's probably what it was, part of it too. So all of those things. That being said, Chicago Fire is still awesome. Dermot Mulrooney is now in charge of the firehouse. Spoiler alert. We're good. Voight's back on Chicago PD, and I'm all in on the Dr. Odyssey.
Okay.
I might be giving a pass because that's Pacey from Dawson's Creek.
I'll say this.
It's Pacey from Dawson's Creek.
She did mention that as well.
Of course she did.
Not that Justin cares, but Penguin might be the best show on TV after one episode.
I'm going to take your word for it. It's a tough sell for me. It's an even tougher sell for my wife, who I watch TV with every night. Hey, you want to watch this weird, dark Penguin show? And she'll be like, what, Colin Farrell, but he's not hot? Yeah, I think she's out. All right, that's going to do it for the big show. Thanks to Brady Henderson from ESPN.com. Thanks to super producer Brenden. Thanks to all of you. Have a terrific Monday. We're back at it bright and early tomorrow morning on 620 Rip City Radio.